Welcome to Codex History of Video Games. I'm Mike Coletta.
And I am Tyler Osby.
And I'm still dancing.
Still dancing. You have to dance the whole time now.
Oh, no. I'm going to get so tired.
But you're going to stay in such good shape from doing your arm thingies from the last episode, right?
Also, I'm going to dance. I'm going to dance the way I dance in real life, which is no movement of the legs whatsoever. Just standing still. We got a great show. Great show lined up for you. It's part 5 of
We're talking
the
about
Jacked book about GTA. Oh, we're going to get into it today. And this one gets a little, like I said last episode, which was, seems like a week ago for you, but really just moments ago for Tyler and I.
That's
time
right.
Travel. It's going to get a little serious this episode a little bit. So we're going to have to, be careful later. It's going to be fun. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be fun. But it's going to get a little somber.
Yeah, we got two like kind of heavy topics in these chapters. I think there's the Jack Thompson video game violence thread, of course, but we're also kind of dealing with a lot of burnout issues at Rockstar and the human cost that making these games took on those the people that made them back in the day. So yeah, like we've talked a lot on Codex about the innovation and the cultural impact of games like GTA 3 and Vice City, but we rarely like pull back the curtain and talk about like what it actually costs to make these games, and not like money wise, but like people wise, right? It's not like a glamorous tale of creative genius. It's about burnout. There's some internal mutiny, so there's some it's kind of exciting in that sense. And the birth of a rival studio from within Rockstar itself. So we're in the post Vice City era here at Rockstar. They are working on GTA San Andreas. And Rockstar's kind of on top of the world here, right? They sold millions of copies of GTA 3 and Vice City. Lots of critical acclaim. They're basically printing money here. But that success comes at a price because and not just late nights, but like systematic, almost relentless pushing of everybody to the absolute breaking point. We talk about crunch a lot in the industry nowadays, but this was before it was like kind of a commonly understood term. I think people just sort of wrote it off back in those days as like, yeah, I guess people work hard to make good stuff. And now it's like, because every game has this like crunch factor in it, it becomes this like, okay, but is this actually sustainable for the people that work on this stuff? And this chapter 15, kind of talks about how intense it was at Rockstar during this period. So the chapter starts out with Fernandez. He's in the car in East Los Angeles. He's recording people talking on the street. He's kind of getting some ideas for dialogue for GTA San Andreas. He's pretty scared in the area, although it doesn't seem like anything bad happened to him when he was there. But yeah, they're out here trying to recreate the early 90s. So after contemporary GTA 3, which I guess so last episode we talked about like, well, what would a GTA game set in the 2000s today look like? I guess it's GTA 3, right? Except for GTA 3 takes place in the 2000s, but from a lens of this is present day, not like from a nostalgic like warped.
Like a modern lens more than anything.
Yeah, so I wonder how you would do GTA 3 again with 25 years in between to like sort of be able to make fun of that time period as the past and not as present day. Anyway, that's
how do you find the satire in the early 2000s?
Yeah, that's a thought experiment, I suppose, for another time. But I think it's interesting. So they go from contemporary in GTA 3 to the 80s in Vice City, which has a very established aesthetic, to the early 90s in San Andreas. So only a few years after Vice City, really. I wonder if we'll ever get a GTA set in the future. Do you think that makes sense, or does GTA have to take place in the past?
Wasn't GTA 2 in the future?
Oh, I guess you're right. I just forget that the first two GTAs exist.
Yeah, I know. Was it good in the opinion of the people? I don't think it was necessarily well received at the time. Right?
Yeah, well, was it because of the setting, or was the game just not great?
I think it was a mix of both. Maybe the setting wasn't really filled out as much. I could see it being like cool if they did a future GTA, but they would have to kind of like pick a sci-fi lane. Like, do they go with like your Blade Runner dystopian sci-fi future? Do they go with like a Star Trek utopian future? And you're like the chaos agent that ruins that? Like, that would be kind of a funny idea. You know? That's kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, I could see it, but I feel like they're having so much fun grounded in the realism that they don't want to go far away from that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, like, I agree with you. And I think it's harder to make fun of the future in the same way you can like make fun of the past or even the present day. Like the future, and depending on, you have to go way far out into the future for it to not get like stale after a few years, I guess, because like yeah, if they were to do GTA 6 and it takes place in 2040, like, okay, well then in 15 years, like, is that going to hold up? I don't know. Anyway, it's an interesting thought experiment.
Is GTA 6 the Vice City one? Is it in 2000s?
No, I think
What
it
time
takes
period?
place like modern day is my understanding. Just from watching the trailers, I think it's just today.
Modern day Vice City. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think it takes place in the past or anything. But I think if GTA were to go future, they probably do some like sort of Black Mirror thing with it, where it like heavily critiques our use of like computers and AI and that kind of stuff. Probably.
There's a lot of stuff they can make fun of with social media. I mean, they already kind of did.
In GTA 4, they did a lot of social media.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked that.
Yeah. But yeah,
got bored of the game, but I liked it. Sorry.
This chapter focuses on two key figures, Fernandez and Pope. These are like crucial creative guys, very deeply involved in shaping the GTA experience, and they were completely exhausted. We talked about how they went from GTA 3 straight into Vice City, which was a jump, or which was like very jarring and maybe probably something they shouldn't have done looking back on it. But they were riding high. They felt good about it. They were like, okay, fine, we'll go straight into this, making Vice City. We'll spend 10 months making it, and then we'll take a vacation. We'll take a break. They didn't get that. They ended up having to go straight into San Andreas like the next day after Vice City came out. And so these two are feeling pretty exhausted, like, and disillusioned with Rockstar in general. Like, this is a common story, I think, in creative industries, like passion projects that turn into grueling, sort of soul-crushing work. And part of the reason these projects work so well is because they come from a place of passion. And once you lose that passion and it just becomes a job, the content you create becomes harder to create and it becomes lower quality, I think. And they were feeling like they were just cogs in this creative machine because now Rockstar had a bunch of people working there. They didn't feel like they were as instrumental in the making of it. They felt like their creativity was being extracted or like used and discarded rather than being nurtured and grown, which is a common thing that happens when companies grow like that. I think they sort of lose track of what got them there, or maybe they never knew what it was that got them where they were in the first place. And so they're just like, it was these people. So just like keep churning the stuff out. And it's like, nah, the people need to rest. People need to.
You also mentioned last week, which I think is important to note again, anytime a corporation says we're a family, it's a red flag, just so everyone knows. Okay. We don't have a lot of Mike and Tyler rules that we come up with on the podcast, but that might be one of them.
Yeah. At
if
best,
they say we're all a family, ooh.
It's like sometimes at best, I believe you believe we're a family, but we're not. At worst, they're just manipulating you, right? So yeah, and Sam Hauser is still running the show here, and he's kind of a complex figure. There are people out there who would say he is a brilliant creative visionary. Sure, probably he did. These games did come from his brain, like at least the seed, the idea, right? There's a lot of other people involved in making them as good as they are, but like the overall vision sort of came from him, and that's not something to be underestimated or say that that's not important, because he had very specific vision for these games, and then he was willing to push for that vision and make everybody achieve it. And I mean everyone. So we've talked about his focus on detail, his focus on polish, on creating a truly immersive world, but the cost that it comes is what this chapter is all about. He demanded excellence from everybody, and it created a toxic environment. And from what this chapter paints, it seems like Rockstar was getting pretty toxic as a place to work. And the chapter frames this not as like Sam being a villain, but more of a fundamentally flawed system, like a belief that the ends justify the means, that like this creative genius is sort of worth the personal sacrifice. And I think that's a really dangerous mindset because it devalues the people who are making the games. It treats them like an expendable resource rather than as vital contributors to this. And I think it implies that they're like replaceable in that sense, right? Where it's like we can just like get the creativity juices out of you until you don't have them anymore, and then we'll just bring someone else in and do that. And this is something that you'll hear a lot of leaders at successful companies say, or at not so successful companies as well, is that companies are made up of people and that the people are very important. And I believe on some level people believe that, but it is one thing to say like, of course we're made up of people. But another thing to like really understand what that means is like the people are what make this good. And if you had different people, you would have different stuff. And the value, the creativity, the ingenuity that you're pulling out of these people has to like be nurtured and grown. It's sort of like a soil at a farm, like how they will leave soil like fallow for a season or something. So it's like the nutrients can come back. Like you got to give it a rest, you know, you got to take breaks. And they weren't doing that. And it speaks to this sort of romanticization of the creative process, like imagining these artists like working in isolation. They're just fueled by their passion and their inspiration. And it's a lot messier than that. They have to collaborate, compromise, deal with conflicting visions. This stuff is all like just draining, even if you have a specific vision in mind. And if you don't address those conflicts, and when you like silence those dissenting voices, then things just start to fall apart. I've seen it happen firsthand in things that I've worked on, not at like the company level, obviously, but like I've seen things fall apart that like people couldn't sort of come to an agreement on. And I'm sure many listeners have seen it too. I'm sure you've seen it happen in things. And that's what was happening here. What?
Even with this podcast.
That's right. We are constantly fighting.
We know there's time. We're not fighting. I don't think. Are we?
No.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. What we talk about, like what this means to us, and like because we get pressured from outside resources to be like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Now that we have people listening, you know, and it's like one of those things that Tyler and I do this for the love of the game, right? That's kind of why we're doing this. And the moment we lose that passion, that's when it's like an uh-oh for this, right? Like that's when it's kind of scary. And so that's kind of what I think was happening at Rockstar, is that passion was going away and they were realizing, oh, this feels like a job now.
Yeah.
And it feels like a job that we're not respected at and we're overworked at.
Yeah.
And that's the bad spot to be in.
Yeah. And it feels like I don't believe, it's not that I don't believe in what we're working on here, but it's like, I'm tired, boss. Like I just don't have it in me anymore, you know?
And that's why we take breaks.
That's right. Yeah. And this
we
is
take a week off. Just know Tyler and I are healing.
Yeah.
Our soil is re-nutrifying.
That's right. Sometimes we go, you know what? I'm not feeling it this week. And we take a week off, and that's okay.
We call those compost weeks. That's when we put the compost down on the podcast. Really bring up the nutrients again.
Yeah. Yeah. Just till the soil a little bit.
We till our soil. You can't say that. Let's move on.
Yeah. So anyway, they weren't tilling the soil at Rockstar. And so Fernandez and Pope, after years of pushing themselves to the limit, they both kind of decided at the same time that they had had enough. And they weren't just leaving for a better paycheck. It wasn't like, oh, I'm not being paid enough here. They were leaving because they felt creatively stifled. They felt emotionally drained. They felt completely burnt out. And that's what I think is interesting about this, because lots of times when people quit a job, it's like, well, I would like more money elsewhere, or I can do this. But like at Rockstar, people leaving because of this was kind of a direct challenge to their culture. When it's like, hey, look, the culture here is what has made this game great. Arguably, the culture here is making me need to leave. And that's like an interesting sort of side effect of what happens there, and like what is worth it. If these folks could go back in time, would they have like spent a little bit more time on Vice City and like took more breaks, I guess, or do they still think they did the right thing? I don't know. You can't know. But they had reached their breaking point. And so they left, and in their disillusionment, they formed a company called Kashmir Games. And last episode, we talked about the sort of hierarchy of employees at Rockstar that were given like different swag. And the highest level of Rockstar people, like the originals, were given like cashmere sweaters that like had the Rockstar logo on them. And so as like kind of to spite Rockstar, they made Kashmir Games, which was a reference to that, I suppose. So yeah, they weren't just starting a new company. They were like kind of making a statement with that, right? And they made this concept for a game, like a mind-jacking game where you were sort of playing as like a cult leader, I guess, which is like sort of the inversion of what GTA is, which is like carjacking. There's like something interesting there of like getting into people's minds. And it's kind of this like symbolic rejection of Rockstar's obsession with violence and a commitment to exploring these more complex themes around the cult leaders. And they've wanted you to play like a David Koresh type character, which I thought was interesting. I did a search for Kashmir Games. I don't think that went anywhere. And I'm going to do another one right now. Kashmir Games. All I can find is things on the Hunger Games, which is apparently...
Yeah, see, and I was trying to look at stuff too, and I didn't find anything either. Like, I don't think this goes anywhere. Not to say that Pope and Fernandez don't go anywhere after this, but I think this idea doesn't come to fruition.
Yeah. Oh, Kashmir Productions. They made a game called Ninja Town on the Nintendo DS. Okay.
Nice.
Well, their cult leader game appears to have not panned out.
Or it's about ninjas in a town.
Or
We
it's
never
about
know.
Ninja David Koresh.
Ninja David Koresh.
Yeah. So, but
Alternate
they wanted
title
to
of
do
this
something
episode.
different, and I think that's admirable.
Yeah.
This chapter is that cautionary tale that innovation comes at a cost, and that relentless pursuit of perfection can destroy the people that are making that happen. I think it's a lesson about the importance of valuing creativity, prioritizing well-being, and creating a sustainable work environment. That's the key here is sustainability. Like, you can do stuff and make a great thing, but if at the end of it, the only takeaway you have is, well, I guess we got to do that again, you probably messed up. You need to come up with a way to do this in a sustainable way, and maybe that means working a little bit more slowly, because I think we so often romanticize this thing where it's like, oh, it was all worth it in the end. We made such a great thing. We worked really hard. We all killed ourselves over it, but we made such a great thing in the end. And that's really great when it works out, but I think that mindset can be weaponized against people, and it doesn't always work out. There are a lot of games where people just totally kill themselves over making games, and the game comes out and it's bad, or it never comes out at all. It gets canceled, and then it was all kind of for nothing, right? And we don't hear about those stories as often, because they don't make the news the way that a GTA makes the news. And I think this is endemic of the entire video game industry, I think. So there's also a bit in this chapter that touches on the internal conflict around Manhunt, which is a different Rockstar game that they're kind of working on at the time. A game that is like intentionally provocative, intentionally violent, intentionally controversial. That had a lot of internal debate sparked at the studio. There were some developers there who were like, ooh, I think we're maybe crossing the line here with Manhunt, because it gets very like graphically violent, sort of violent for the sake of it too. Like the GTA games were always controversial, right? And they didn't necessarily shy away from that controversy. They didn't really try to water it down because of that. But I think the controversy was a byproduct of what they had made rather than like the whole point, right? But Manhunt was being made sort of with that in mind. Like they almost made it as kind of like a spite for Jack Thompson, I guess, right? I don't know if you can draw a direct connection there, but that's what I'm trying to do to transition us to the next chapter, because you did draw the Jack Thompson straw this time around.
I did, and I do think that was a good little segue you had there.
Thanks.
So I liked it. I liked it a lot. So yeah, I'm once again going to talk about the Jack Thompson side of things, and it's not going to get very happy. So we're going to start with another horrific shooting that happened. They refer to it as the Buckner shootings in the book. I'm not really going to go into detail, but in the end, the 13 and 15-year-old boys responsible for the shooting claimed that Grand Theft Auto 3 gave them the idea at first. So this was all Jack Thompson needed, right?
Yep.
He began a media-heavy campaign against Grand Theft Auto and Rockstar Games. He found multiple shootings and violent crimes involving juveniles and asked if the kids played any GTA. One case involving the murder of a girl at the hands of a 15-year-old boy. Thompson found the boy had been playing GTA prior to the crime, and he convinced the victim's father to sue Rockstar Games. So this is the strange thing about Thompson's strategy. And it's not so strange when I explain it to you, but he did not care about winning these lawsuits. He didn't care. For example, this one with the boy's father who sued Rockstar Games, the case was dismissed. He just needed the publicity of the case, since no game developers were going against him, to kind of keep momentum going. He was the only voice for or against violent video games hurting children. So he just needed these lawsuits to keep going, so he had momentum to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, right? But as the negative press stacked up against Lowenstein's job at the Interactive Digital Software Association, it became so much harder for him, especially when it came out that a Gallup organization poll showed out of 517 teens between ages 13 and 17, 60% had played a GTA game.
Sounds about
now,
right.
The long statistic here was always like, oh, but adults are playing these games. But with this poll coming out, now it was harder for them to convince lawmakers that adults were playing these games, right? So Jack Thompson made it clear at this point in the story, I'm going to actually change my notes here and say at this point in the story, because of how this chapter ends, that he wasn't going after games as a whole, just these games that were marketing to minors. And Lowenstein did finally make some statements. He said, quote, "I have no doubt Mr. Thompson is quite passionate and committed to his cause. We're just as committed to ours," end quote. Like, he's just very generic statements, right? But then Lowenstein did get some facts on his side. The FTC found that parents were the ones purchasing games for minors 80% of the time. Lowenstein is quoted as saying, "If a 12-year-old has Grand Theft Auto, chances are he got it from mom and dad," end quote. In other good news for Lowenstein, the 8th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled against that St. Louis County ban I mentioned last episode that would prevent minors from purchasing violent video games, in a ruling that I actually found quite amusing. So I'm actually going to read the court ruling here. You ready, Tyler?
Oh, I'm ready for some court document recitation.
Quote, "If the First Amendment is versatile enough to shield the painting of Jackson Pollock, music of Arnold Schoenberg, or Jabberwocky verse of Lewis Carroll, we see no reason why the pictures, graphic design, concept art, sounds, music, stories, and narrative present in video games are not entitled to similar protection," end quote. So essentially, if all this other media is weird, video games should be included too.
I mean, hard to argue with that. And it's like, look at all this other stuff. Argument.
Yeah, right? So, and this is where I actually get to be mad at the current state that I live in, that is Washington State, because where I live, Governor Gary Locke, who is no longer governor here, proposed a ban of violent video games to minors even after this came out. So how dare you, Gary Locke?
Dang.
Okay. Also, the battery just died on my camera. All right. Technical difficulties. I'm on a different camera. It died. All right. So I'm mad at Gary Locke, but Tyler, because I got Tyler all fired up while I was fixing my camera. Okay. And so go ahead and say what you just said again, because it's really, I think this is an important point to me.
This is maybe controversial, but I don't personally have a huge problem with laws against the sale of violent video games to kids. I like where it's like a kid can't just walk in and buy Grand Theft Auto. If their parent wants to buy it for them, fine. I don't actually have a problem with kids playing the games. If their parents are aware and cool with it and know what their kid can handle, fine with me. I'm not on board the like video games cause violence train, but I don't necessarily have a problem with the banning of sale to kids. There is something to be said for like a First Amendment thing of like maybe the government shouldn't do that. But yeah, I mean, this is a strong opinion weakly held. Like I would be happy to change my tune if somebody can convince me.
Well, Lowenstein already has a quote kind of rolling into this about the First Amendment, because he mentions, like, I'm paraphrasing here, that routinely he would meet with politicians and they would openly sacrifice the First Amendment to protect children. Now, I am not a lawmaker, so I do not know if stopping a child from buying something breaks the First Amendment. You know, like according to that judge I just read, it does. Right? Like it should be able to be purchased or whatever.
But we do ban the sale of like pornography to kids, and people generally don't seem to have a problem with that. And I'm not sure how this is fundamentally different.
Yeah, I also couldn't get into R-rated movies as a kid, you know, at a certain age. Like I remember going to see Team America and I was 16 and they didn't card me and I got in and I was blown away. I was like, oh man.
Is that illegal for them to not card you, or is that like a... Because there is a difference between like we have made it illegal to do this and Best Buy is just like, you know what, we don't sell things to kids that we think.
I think now we're getting into the whole like what constitutes the like state versus local versus federal law. Like, can a state tell you that you can't do that, but can the federal government tell you? I don't know. We're not a law podcast, right? So, but like the important thing here is that Lowenstein was starting to get some stuff on his side, but he was still getting pushback from politicians. And he was also frustrated because Rockstar and other developers just like put their heads in the sand and ignored the whole problem. Like he was the one kind of taking the brunt of this, right? So one thing I do find really interesting though is he says, quote, the problem was the industry wasn't willing to understand the fundamental instincts of parents to care about their children. Like, that's not what they understood. Like, they were just like, yeah, we're selling games, right? Doesn't really matter. but they didn't realize that the parents would fight so hard against them, this idea of selling them games.
I'm like,
I
well, if you don't
guess.
want your kid playing violent video games, then sounds like do your job as a parent. Like, I didn't play a
Ooh.
lot of violent video games as a kid because my parents would not let me.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir, Tyler. I mean, a lot of this to me stems personally, and this is a very much an opinion from me, is parenting, like how this
Yeah.
person parents their children. Like, and that's up to you. That's your right as a parent, right? But like, you can't go blaming everyone else.
There's like a few different threads here of like, do games cause violence? I'm firmly in the like, no, I don't think so. Then there's the like, should kids be allowed to play these games? And I'm like, that sounds like a parenting issue to me. And then there's like, should businesses be able to sell these games to kids? And I'm kind of like, I don't necessarily have the problem with it being made, maybe because it doesn't really affect me anymore, but like, I don't necessarily have the problem with like saying no, the same way that we don't sell pornography to kids, the same way we don't sell cigarettes or alcohol to kids. Is like, yeah, these are things that adults can do responsibly, but we just understand that like kids maybe shouldn't, or and in the case of games, I wouldn't even say that like, kids just shouldn't do this. I'm just like, that seems like a parent thing. If the parent wants their kid to buy a game, or the kid wants to convince their parent that they should have this game, fine. Parent can go buy GTA for their kid. I don't care. But yeah, so I don't know. I have a hard time like being sympathetic toward the like, no, kids need to be able to buy these games without their parents present.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's kind of a weird thing to do, right? Anytime you bring children into it, it's gonna, you know, cause complications to how like the law works, right? Because if this was an adult thing, it's like First Amendment, boom, done.
Yeah, it's
Anyone can buy
easy
this.
open shut case. Yeah, so
Yep, but-
we'd be interested to see what Codex fans what y'all think. Let me know, because like, what should a kid be able to do this, and why? And maybe the answer is like, well, you can't convince me that they shouldn't, and so therefore they should. And I guess that's an angle you can take, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree.
Yeah. So send us an email, codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. Okay, so while all this was happening and Lowenstein's like, why aren't the developers helping me? Thompson was using the media to turn parents and change their minds. So the gaming business, meanwhile, was just saying nothing. But then on October 20th, 2003, Jack Thompson, filed a $246 million lawsuit on behalf of the Buckner shooting victims against Sony Computer Entertainment, Walmart, and Rockstar. He sued Sony for publishing and marketing GTA 3, Walmart for selling it, and Rockstar for creating and publishing it. So most of the next chapter goes into the details of the Buckner shooting. I personally don't feel comfortable going into this. I'm just not going to. We're not a true crime podcast. If you're interested, I would say read the book. He does a great deep dive here, Kushner, into like the biography of these kids and the biography of their parents and everything that led up to this point. But needless to say, Josh and Will Buckner were sentenced to a juvenile detention facility. And once the parents' lawsuit was moved by the defendants to a federal court, the victims' attorneys actually dismissed the cases altogether. So these lawsuits were dropped. They did not go anywhere. Now, there is something with the Buckners that I found interesting, and I hope I'm explaining this well, and I hope my point gets across properly here. Both the boys, Will and Josh Buckner, said GTA 3 was the reason they committed the crime. However, after Will was almost out on good behavior, he told his mom and stepdad that the game actually, quote, didn't reprogram their minds, and that they wanted to do what they did anyway. So he kind of like rescinded his comment after he did his time. However, what Kushner points out is that all of the kids in this detention facility loved Grand Theft Auto games. So what he thinks is that maybe as the lawsuit progressed and there was talk of pulling these games from the shelves, the kids in the juvenile detention facility threatened Will and Josh with violence. And that's what caused him to rescind their statements. So we never are going to know. Like, we're not going to know. There's no answer to this question, right? Unless Josh and Will Buckner come out publicly now 20 years after this event and tell us what happened, right? But it's just kind of a weird, like, it's a gray area. This whole part of the story is kind of a gray area. Like, they claimed it was GTA 3 that gave them the idea to do this. Then they did it. Then horrible things happened. There were consequences. Then they go to jail, and they're now saying they're rescinding it, but it might not actually be truthful. They might just be saying this because of the dynamic of the juvenile detention center they're in. So does that come across what I just said? Does that make sense? I'm not giving a yes or no answer either way. It's like we just don't know. Yeah. That's what Kushner's bringing up. We really don't know.
My take, and again, I don't have any more information on this than anybody else. My take here is that these kids got in trouble for doing a thing that they shouldn't have done. And while they're in the process of like figuring out, are they going to get in trouble? How much trouble are they going to get in? Somebody goes, hey, did GTA make you do this? And they saw an opportunity to go, yeah, this was not my fault. This was somebody else's fault. That could get me out of worse consequences if I can pin this on GTA. I probably would have done the same thing. Looking at my options of like, maybe I can get out of this if I blame a video game. I probably absolutely would have blamed a video game when I was 13 years old to get out of trouble. Now that he's served his time, he doesn't have anything to gain from blaming the video game. I think he's kind of just like, yeah, that was kind of BS, right? Like that wasn't really true.
And that could be
the violence from the people from the kids in the juvenile detention center. Like that seems he's not there anymore.
Stretch.
How can they? Like, yeah, that seems like a stretch.
No, he was still in the detention center at the time.
Oh, he was.
He was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so like,
right,
so this is right
before
he got out. Like, so, and that's kind of the idea of like, because Kushner's showing both sides to this. I'm impressed with David Kushner's ability to be like a narrator that's not taking a side, honestly, because I read this and I get like angry at times at Jack Thompson, like where I'm just like, this is just the most fear-mongering kind of news thing that I hate, right? But Kushner, and we're kind of going to close out on this part of the story today with this, but he does a really good job because do I think that Jack Thompson, personally, this is my opinion, is a clown? Yes, I do. I think he is very much like, I am seeking attention for my cause by going on news shows and riling people up. It's using fear to make people think that something is happening here with video games and it's causing their children. Like, it's like the satanic panic. It's like dance music earlier before then. Like
comic books.
It's comic books.
Pulp
it's a tale as old as
Pulp
time.
Fiction novels.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I do feel, obviously, for the families in the story, because Kushner, on the flip side, does a really good biography. I want you to read the book. I think everyone should read the book because, and I don't know if you've read these chapters yet or not, Tyler, but like he does a really good job explaining how these two kids grew up and what their lives were like. And it's not great.
They didn't, these were not like well-adjusted kids that played a video game and suddenly wanted to murder people. It was like these kids had a rough time and they played video games.
Exactly. They had a really rough childhood and they were both kind of loners and they grew up in a hard spot. So and then they got together because their parents got married, right?
Yeah, and one of them has like a little bit of brain damage potentially as well, which may affect his decision-making skills. Yeah.
So I would say read the book, but I want to say you read the book to get the whole story, but I also want to tell you to read the book because I do think Kushner does a really good job. Like,
it's a good book. This book, Masters of Doom, is great too.
If we could get him on the podcast, like that would be crazy because I am like genuinely blown away at how someone can be this. Is it objective of narrator? I always get objective and subjective confused. I think it's objective narrator when you're not taking a side, right? He's a journalist.
Objective. Yeah.
Objective. He's doing his job really, really well. And I really think you should read the book. So that's kind of where we're going to end today. Like the important thing that's most relevant is that lawsuit was dropped, but Jack Thompson is still pushing when we end this chapter. And this is how I said, remember when I said that he made a quote earlier saying he only wants to go after the video games being sold to minors? Well, then he said this quote, the goal is to destroy the video game industry.
Okay, so Jack Thompson's just hating.
Yeah, so I think we all know how this ends for him, obviously. He's not going to destroy the video game industry, but I do think this is where we see the shift where he says, oh, it's all about minors buying games. And now he's like, no, we're going to take all these guys down. And it's like, yeah.
I wonder what his beef is with the video game industry. Like, this is the angle that he's taking of like, well, it's bad for kids, so we should shut it all down. But like, what? Why are you mad?
I don't know why you have to be mad. It's only
His
game.
only game. Why you have to be
It's
mad?
only game. Why you have to be mad? That's a great video. We should put that on the Discord. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it makes you wonder. Like, there are some people in the world that are willing to blame everything they can but themselves for their problems, right? And it's like, I don't know, but it sounds like what's crazy is Jack Thompson sounds like a good dad. He doesn't sound like he's a guy that's like bad to his son. Sure, he makes his son go try to entrap Best Buy employees, but I mean, it's not like he doesn't seem like he's a bad dad. So really, it just comes from, I guess, his faith, his morals, values. Maybe he thinks it's like his chosen purpose is to just take down video games. I don't know.
I feel like I want to do a Jack Thompson deep dive, like that show Behind the Bastards, like do one on Jack Thompson.
Yeah, I mean, I would actually be genuinely interested in meeting Jack Thompson, interviewing him. Now, I did call him a clown earlier, so I don't know how that's going to work.
Wait, this is maybe not the right Jack Thompson. It's like there is a Jack Thompson politician who died in 2011. So, but I don't.
It would not surprise me if he became a politician. That would make a lot of sense, actually. That would be the right
activist. Here we go. The Florida one. No, he's still alive. Just kidding. There was a British politician named Jack Thompson that died in 2011.
Yeah, I don't really know. It just, yeah. And it's a weird slippery slope too. This is why the op-ed was so hard for me a couple weeks ago, because I was like, I never like to use my opinion to be like something is definitely set in stone, because I do think things change all the time. But I really want to say that this guy is just a fear-mongering clown guy that's just trying to like scare everyone.
I think it's okay to say stuff and then have your opinion be changed later when presented with more information. Like, I'll say Jack Thompson's a clown, and then if we can figure out how he's not a clown, okay, fine. You convinced me.
Mm-hmm. I'll say he's a clown, and then we'll play that GIF of Mr. Rogers pulling the clown mask down. That's what we'll do. Yeah. Anyway, that's my rant. If you want, I'm gushing over the book. It's a really good book. It's a great read. Check it out, and check out Masters of Doom also. If you're into video games and you like to read, these are
he's written a bunch of other books too, like gaming adjacent to like tech stuff. The Player's Ball and The World's Most Dangerous Geek. I haven't read either of those, so I don't know anything about them. But
yeah, well, maybe we'll read those in our own time and then do one episode on them, because we're going to end up doing like 10 on this book. So strap in, everybody. And if you don't want us to do 10 on this book, let us know. We're curious what people think. Like, I want to keep going. This is like the root of one of the big issues in video games is this book. So I want to keep going with it, because this whole violence in video games destroying children is a very fascinating era. That's still not over. They still bring this up sometimes. So it's where we're at.
Yep.
But yeah. But Tyler, what you been playing?
Well,
or what will you be playing?
That's a good question, because we are recording 2 episodes in a row. So if you're listening to this episode now, what you listened to last week was actually just recorded moments ago by us, because we had some stuff going on.
I'm going on vacay. I'll just say it. I'm going on vacation.
Yeah, and oftentimes we will skip a week when we go on vacation, and that's fine. But this time we found that we had what we felt like was enough content to record 2 episodes at once, so we did.
That's right.
But that means I don't have a fresh what you've been playing for you, because even my last one was not very fresh, because I have not been playing very much. I've been playing Bravely Default. But what I think I will be playing is I think I will have made substantial progress in Bravely Default. And I think I will have also made substantial progress in playing through Grand Theft Auto 3.
Ooh.
That's what I think I will have been playing. That's what I'm.
Nice.
I'm going to play the definitive edition, which I know has its own controversy surrounding it, because it's the remake that was of dubious quality. I think they have patched a lot of that at this point. But I want the modern controls, and I think I'm going to play with the mouse and keyboard. So I think I just want the newest thing. I just want to play the new version, you know?
Yeah, you got to play the new version. I get
What do you think you will have been playing this week?
Probably going to be playing games on my Mii Mini and my Switch, because I'm going to be flying. So that's probably what I'm going to do. And then probably won't be playing games a lot while I'm on vacation. So it's going to be like, I mean, I think I could tell people it's going to be like a EF tour with high school students that me and my wife do, where we're like chaperones and stuff. So It was kind of go 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 the whole time with those, so we're not really going to have a lot of time. Maybe some bus rides, but on the bus rides, I like to look out the window because I'm in a place I've never been to. So
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah. But yeah, I'm that. Oh, I did want to mention something. I'm going to shout something out because I should have done this last episode. I went to my favorite arcade I've ever been to. It's pretty strong. Pretty strong opinion. It is called the Next Level Pinball Museum and Store, and it's in Hillsboro, Oregon. And it is genuinely one of the craziest arcades ever. It's like all these pinball machines organized by their company. They sell pinball machines. They also have video games. It is $25 to get in. You can leave and come back throughout the whole day. They give you a wristband. They have food trucks, and everything is free to play except for specific games that say they're for $1, and they don't do child gambling tickets. So I like it.
All right.
Oh, and the walls are lined with
like
collectibles.
outside Portland.
Yeah, they're yeah. It's outside of Portland. The hills, the walls are lined with all sorts of collectibles like lunchboxes, action figures, posters, Pokemon cards. Like their bathrooms are lined with enclosed shelves of game cases of just like all the games in this library or all the games in that library.
That's
cool. The door frames have CGA graded Pokemon cards in them.
Ooh.
Like it's nuts. And I am in love with it. I want to go back. I told Katie I want to have my 38th and 39th birthday there.
Great. I'm on board.
Yeah. So I also, they have a party room. I just love the idea of an arcade where you pay money and you get in and you don't have to think for about how I'm going to pay for stuff the rest of the game. Like, and you're just the rest of the day. And they have food trucks outside.
Games forever.
Oh, the food trucks were so good too. I wanted to buy a shirt, but they didn't have any left in my size. So
I wonder if you could, if you had like a arcade sort of restaurant deal, if you could successfully run some sort of like subscription service to it where you're like, because you said it's $25 to get in, you get in for the whole day, right? What if you did some kind of like $30 a month
annual pass?
Yeah, or like $30 a month, you get in, you get 10% off food, whatever, you get full access to all the games. I wonder if that's a viable business model.
I would say, or like pay for like a yearly pass, like I almost said EMP. That's the old name of it. The what's it called? The Pop Culture Museum in Seattle does, where you pay like $300 for the year pass. Do that at the Pinball Museum. Pay $300, and then you can get in anytime you want. Because then what people will do is they'll just try to go in like every couple weeks, which is good. There's business, but they don't. I mean, it's not like they need the business. I was there on a Saturday, and it was packed with people. It was so fun, though. Like, we got to go. We got to check it out. It's really cool. So that's my little plug. Other things you can do to support us. Go to Codex History Podcast or Codex Podcast at gmail.com. Oh, my gosh. CodexPodcast.net. Codex History Podcast at gmail.com. Those are the two separate things. On CodexPodcast.net, our Discord link is there. You can click on that. Go to the Discord, check the box to agree to the settings, and then you can see everything on there. Tyler and I both have Trello boards, so you can go look at those on the website too and see.
Keep them up to date.
We do. I love moving my Trello board around. It's one of my favorite things I do.
It's one of the few like organizational things that I've been able to stick to since I've been doing it since like 2018. I've like actually stuck to it. Most organizational things, 3 days tops. Mm-hmm. But I've been years with the Trello board.
You were the one that sold me on it too, and I always go now.
I had seen somebody else do it online at one point. I think it's the pictures that get me, like attaching the picture of the game. That really makes it. Yeah, I'm not usually a visual person, but that really works for me.
That does it for me too. That's great. And then lastly, I think the most important thing you can do if you wanted to support us in general is just tell your friends about our podcast. Review our podcast wherever you listen to it. A good review, preferably. But if not, we'll take that too. We want to know.
Yeah, give us your criticism. Tell us that you hate how we do things. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Do whatever you want to do. But
we'll give you a full refund.
We'll give you a full refund. Thank you for listening. And with that, Tyler, do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Yeah, let me say goodbye, everybody.